We're going to have to discuss a very important question over here. Let's talk about Yerusha, inheritance. From the Torah law, general halacha is that a daughter does not inherit anything from her parents. Additionally, a firstborn gets double portion from the inheritance. The question is why? This is in this week's Parsha, in Parshas Pinchas, Bamidbar Chav Zayin Ches. In Devarim, we learn about the Bechor, Chav Aleph Yud Zayin. What is the explanation behind this? And how do we hold bottom line regarding this? Let's start with the chinuch in mitzvah taf. The whole concept of inheritance in general is an interesting concept. For example, the Gemara, we take it out as obvious we should inherit whatever it is, but the Gemara in Bava Metzia on Kaf Ches says that back then in Persia, when they used to find the lost object, they would give it to the king. He would use it to maintain roads, build bridges, maintain an army. And there weren't taxes. Instead, all lost property inheritances would go to the government and the king. So why then are we set up with the Yerusha that we have nowadays, in that it gets transferred from one generation to the next in this manner? So the chinuch discusses in mitzvah taf. It's a very long mitzvah, Misharshi mitzvah zoh. He discusses this concept. And he basically says that it's a continuation. Once upon a time, people were actually immortal. The time of Adam before the sin, they would live forever. And therefore, it makes sense that the children will benefit from the acts that the parents did. And they could eat the fruits, literally. Immortality. Nowadays, we're mortal, so we can't have the bodies of our parents here forever. However, the assets, the monies, are considered a continuation from the body, and therefore explains the chinuch. We kind of had that now connection between the parents and the children, and from here we see that children could benefit from the parents' good acts that they did in their lifetime. But let's go back to some of the practical halachas of writing a will, something which isn't discussed often. The chinuch at the end of the mitzvah over here explains that someone who transgresses this mitzvah, aka there's a hierarchy based on the Gemara in Baba Basra of who to give your assets to. For example, as we already discussed, the firstborn male will get double. And technically, if a person has boys, sons, then the daughters wouldn't get anything from a halachic perspective. So we have to figure out nowadays, does that still apply? Why or not? Why not? And if someone goes against that, explains the chinuch, he nullified this positive mitzvah. He canceled it. It's almost like he didn't even hear shofar on Rosh Hashanah, which also comes up in this week's parsha. That's right. Mitzvah shofar.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay. You have two places where it comes up in the Torah, Zichron Trua and Yom Trua. So the chinuch writes in the language of the chinuch, "Va'oiver al zeh v'siva bein bria bein shkiminov shelo yireh Hashem haroyu liyarsha bittul atzeiza." You literally nullified this positive mitzvah. You violated this mitzvah. In the art scroll to the chinuch at the end of the mitzvah, they have a very nice, what they call an insight. Oh, perfect.
No.
Just try calling. We're learning about Yerusha now.
Oh, okay.
Inheritance. That's why I didn't want to bomb you and everything. Okay, let's continue. Here's the insight over here. And I'm going to try to summarize this and then tie in a few different ideas. Hopefully, we're going to have time for everything because there's a lot of information to present. If someone, as we just learned from the chinuch, prepares a will that is contradictory to what the Torah says, you violated this mitzvah. AKA, someone has one boy and a few girls, and he's giving money to the girls, technically from a Torah perspective, he violated his mitzvah. But don't leave now. Don't leave now because that's wrong. But this is technically. Not only that, from a halachic technical perspective, his instructions are null and void, they don't count. This is similar, if we may add, someone makes a vow and he says, I am vowing to not hear shofar on Rosh Hashanah. Guess what? That vow is null and void because you're mushbu va'oimid v'har Sinai. We're already commanded from Har Sinai that we have to hear shofar. It goes against what the Torah says, so then this would be no different. Now the Shulchan Aruch in Choshen Mishpat in Simin Reish Hey Aleph Sif Aleph says that a testor, which is the English terminology and name for someone who creates a will. Right? Now we're learning about wills over here. He cannot cause his or her estate to pass to someone who is not a halachic heir. That's what it says in Shulchan Aruch. You can't give your property or your money to someone who isn't halachically supposed to get it. Now, this obviously severely limits a person's ability to control the disposition of his assets and where his money is going to go, according to this. Now, we have to point out that there are two different terminologies. There's a matana and there's a yerusha. A matana is a gift. Before a person dies, he could give whatever he wants to whoever he wants. We are specifically talking about after his death, yerusha. And most people don't like giving away things while they're still alive. Okay? When they're dead, they don't care because they're dead. So we are talking about yerusha over here. A gift, you could go wherever you want. Now, furthermore, someone cannot gift property that he doesn't own yet. Davar shaloi ba la'olam. Let's say someone is in contract for a property, but he doesn't own it yet. He can't give that to someone else. Fine. Now, sometimes in secular wills, there's a difference between a Torah will and a secular will. It's the norm for a lot of times the inheritance of the estate will get transferred to someone who halachically shouldn't be receiving it. The problem is, as we just said, that contradicts what the Torah says about wills, and it would be null and void. However,
Or what's an example of that? What do you mean, like a daughter or what?
yeah, that's right, a daughter, someone who's not allowed to get the will, as we just discussed.
Yes, there are no sons, right?
Oh, if there are no sons, there are no sons. We're talking about if there are sons.
Yes.
Now, the halacha is that, as we just said, if someone has sons and a daughter or daughters, it just goes to the sons. Yeah? Comes out that a daughter is not allowed to get anything. That's what we're learning. That's the halacha, general halacha. Now, a lot of times in secular courts, right, it's enforceable. Let's say a parent said, I want my daughter to get something. That from a legal perspective, again, you could speak to lawyers who specialize in this field, but this is typically enforceable and she would get it. Now, the problem is, if one of the sons objects, from a halachic perspective, the assets that she received might be considered halachically stolen. Think about that. So from a secular perspective, it's enforceable, but halachically, it could be considered stolen. She's not supposed to get it. Hold on, but don't leave it. Hold on. Now, many times, and hopefully this should be the case, the sons are going to honor their father's wishes and waive their halachic rights and say she could have it. Right? But if they decide not to, there could very well be ample room for them to protest, and halachically they can bring a claim to Beis Din. Furthermore, as we already learned, the father violated this mitzvah of making a proper halachic will by dividing his assets to his daughters, as we just said. Now, this is a very minute discussion in of itself, specific discussion, but there are opinions who hold that a secular will is valid halachically as well, which is interesting for various reasons. But it's not so simple. And this references to, and if we have more time, I'm going to say again what we said in Parshas Vayechi about wills. This opens up a potential problem that could cause a lot of machlokas, family discord, arguments, and therefore a person has to be very careful with this. Maybe we'll come to that again if we have more time. If not, it's already recorded in Parshas Vayechi. We discussed that at length. How then could a father who wishes to bequeath something to his daughters avoid this situation? Is there any halachic loophole, lechatchila, for a father to take his assets and give it to his daughters? His property, his stocks, his Bitcoin, his bonds, his money, his real estate portfolio, whatever it is. Is there any halachic leniency or way that it's 100% permissible? The answer is yes. Mida araisa from the Torah level, as we said, it goes to the sons. However, midra rabbanan, the rabbis came along and they made enactments so that the daughters would be able to have something. We call it a nidunya, a dowry. All right? A dowry is a chunk of money, that basically says, oh, we got money with her. Now you're going to want to marry her. And that she could be provided for when she get married. Now, even though this would reduce the amount of money that the sons would get, it would reduce the value of the estate remaining for the sons, as discussed in Ksubas, Nun Beis, Amun Beis. Nevertheless, the rabbi said that this is fine to do. Now, this enactment is that someone who isn't married and an orphan daughter of someone who died, a deceased man, would receive her father's estate, the amount that we estimate he would have provided her as a dowry. In other words, if a female wasn't married and the father died, whatever he was going to provide for her when she got married as a dowry, she gets that money. Ksubas Samach Chesed Aleph Shulchan Aruch Even Ezer Kuf Yud Gimel Sif Aleph. Hefker Beis Din Hefker. Beis Din the Jewish court could basically override a person's monetary rights and make his assets ownerless, essentially, or some of them. Now, what's the obvious question on this, guys?
Girl's married, what happens?
That's right. Most time when parents die, the girl's already married, she's already older. How does that help the married girls? Based on this, in Ashkenazic communities, a father could bequeath a portion of his assets, even to his married daughter. Is it
Amanas?
Oh, now we're going to get to the Almanas business. And he would commit in writing at the time of the wedding. This is a, quote, deferred dowry. Deferred means it's pushed off for later. That's an accounting term, right? Also, yeah.
The voting has to be done before the wedding?
Yeah, it's a deferred dowry. Oh, she's already married. Okay, you lost your chance. Maybe we can try to come on to something else for you. It's essentially a deferred dowry, which is fine. That could work. She would receive it when he died. So it's not necessarily a Yerusha, an inheritance. Rather, it's a delayed dowry. Delayed dowry. But it was not a gift either, because it only legally is binding upon his death. All right? Now, accordingly, this bequeathal deprived the sons of their rightful inheritance. Now the sons are getting less money because of the so-called delayed dowry over here. And it should be null and void. In order to make this dowry bequeathal valid, What they did over here, the Rishonim devised a method known as Shtar Chotzi Zachar, which literally means a document for half of a male, a note for half of the share of the son. This reflects, and this is based on the idea that a daughter is traditionally only given half as much as a son. This is ruled by the Ramah, cited by the Ramah, in Choshen Mishpat and Siman Reish Pei Aleph Sif Zayin, also the Rambam, and it would be done like this. And this is the main thing to listen to. This is what it's done. The father writes a note saying he's talking about his indebtedness to his daughter. He owes his daughter something. He owes his daughter a large sum of money. This sum of money is greater than all of his assets. Let's say someone is worth $10 million. He says, I owe my daughter $11 million. Yeah? Okay. This debt is going to be payable the second that he dies. He owes his daughter everything he has plus a little more. But he made it tonight. He stipulated that the debt is conditional debt that he owes his daughter. And he led his sons in the huddle for the stipulation also. And he told them, he said, my sons, if you give your sister half of a share from the estate. So halachically, what this would mean, based on what the Chinuch said, he actually goes into the exact math. If a person has one boy and one girl, he divides everything that he has into thirds. 2/3 goes to the boy, 1/3 would go to the daughter.
Because of the Bachar. The 2/3, why 2/3?
Yeah, 2/3.
Because he's a Bachar.
Bechor and a boy.
His
If
boy-
it's
right.
let's do two boys. Two boys and one girl, divided into 4. The girl would only get 1/4. That's the idea over here. Now, if the sons would give his daughter half of the share that she gets from his estate, from his assets, the debt will be retroactively nullified. Okay? Therefore, when he died, the estate that he had, his assets technically fell to his sons because they're their halachic heirs, according to the Torah. But in order for them to keep their share, they have to give their daughter the amount that the father said that they have
It's
to have.
in that contract.
Otherwise, the debt to the daughter is going to be triggered retroactively, and his entire estate would be needed to pay it off. His daughter would get everything. So either his daughter gets everything, or the sons chip in and give her half of what they get. Smart. Theoretically, according to this method, you following? Sure.
Mhm.
Anything, any size, any amount of money could be assigned to the daughter. Right? But since the son are the heirs from the Torah, the tradition was to give a daughter a smaller share, which was equaled only half of the son's share. That's interesting. Some places the daughters were given full shares. And these are legitimate minhagim. This is the Chassam Sofer and Even Ezer talks about it. Chelek Aleph, Siman Kuf Mem Zayin, as well as the Ksois HaChoshen, Lamed Gimel Gimel. However, usually Svarim are just given to the men. Now, the truth is, this could be given to anyone this way, not just daughters. You give it to whoever you want if you go with this method. Now, even though the Torah doesn't restrict a person giving away what he has while he's alive, nevertheless, the Gemara doesn't like this, and he says, the Mishnah Baba Basra on Kuflam and Gimel and Beis says that the rabbis, they don't like such a thing over here, even if it's done illegally. So this is basically the halachic loophole for how to get this done.
Is there a way to do it? I guess before you make an almanas, like before he dies. You say that,
Almanas.
I'm giving, no, I'm not, I'm giving this to my daughter,
Yeah.
like just say, like the way you do a get, right? If I die in battle, my wife should be
No,
divorced
you
before.
can't, because
Why?
that's against what it says in the Torah.
No, but you're giving it the second before you die. You can give it like the Rav said, a person give a
Oh,
gift.
the second before you die.
Well, that
It seems
what
like
I said to
that's
her.
not so simple. That's not so simple halachically. It's kind of weaving your way and trying to trick the system. It's not. I
That's
haven't seen
not.
that brought down. No, that's seems like that's less of an issue. Less of an issue, it seems like.
Okay.
Let's.
When our grandkids, let's say, kids do the same thing.
There's something fascinating. Yeah. According to this, there's something fascinating with grandkids. If you look at the chinuch over here through this mitzvah, and you learn the halachas of this more in depth, not only from a Torah perspective, would the daughter get nothing if there are sons, but if the son had sons, the grandsons get before the daughters. That's right.
If the son's not alive.
Hold on. Don't say something's ridiculous when you haven't researched the topic for 30 hours. Research that. Logically, you don't have logic because you didn't research this topic like most people know nothing about this. They don't even want to talk about death.
Yeah.
All right.
Listen, have
Fine.
halachic rules for called them.
This is a real thing. And say something over. Share it from Rabbi Galinsky over here. Parshas Pinchas. This is on Pasuk Chav Zayin, Perek Chav Zayin, Pasuk Ches. Vel b'nei Yisrael tabad lemer, Ish ki yamusu ubein lo v'vartan nachal bita. Now let's take a picture of this. No, it's copyrighted. Nice try though. I saw that coming before you did it. It said that what? Ubein ein lo v'havartan es nachal bisa. You don't have a son, then you're going to give the inheritance. Yeah? I'll let you borrow this for the week, okay? You look at it later. So it says that if he dies and has no son, this is talking about inheritance. You can borrow this also. Let you borrow everything I got. All right? Comes along Rabbi Galinsky and he says, what's the idea over here? Every individual, listen carefully, is sent into the world for a specific purpose and receives the tools and resources he needs to achieve his mission. Chazal say that before a person is created, it's decreed whether he's going to be wise, foolish, rich, poor, strong, weak. With these tools, he's obligated to increase the glory of heaven. This is why we were created in the first place. If we don't fulfill our mission, it has to be passed down to his children after him. This is why Malchus is an inheritance as well. A king passes it to his son to become the next king. In Chasidus, the Rebbe passes it down to the son to become a Rebbe. The Rosh Yeshiva, the head of the yeshiva, he passes it down. This is all Yerusha. The Kohen Gadol, the Kahuna Gedola passed down, father to son, Gemara and Yuma and Ayin Beis, as well as other positions of authority and leadership. This is why for all the people that, it's not fair, how come we can't do this, how come we do that, males, females, this, that, what do you mean? I wanted to get Kohen today, I can't get Kohen, I'm a Yisrael, my mother's a Levi. This is how it is finished. We all have to use our status to accomplish what we could accomplish. The same is true when it comes to wealth. The wealthy man's purpose in this world is to increase the glory of Hashem. Acts of charity, kindness, supporting Torah, mitzvahs. It was given to a person to use during his lifetime in this world, not to just accrue wealth, keep it for himself, just for the sake of accruing more wealth, and just to indulge in all the physicalities of this world. That's not what it is. In fact, the Gemara in Gittin on Mem Zayin says that Reish Lakish left behind a small measure of saffron, and he said, oh, I left my possession to others. Because if something was given to him, it was given for him to use. And if he didn't use everything towards his purpose in life, then his children would be chosen to continue his life mission, particularly the eldest. A daughter is meant to help her husband in his mission. She has no business helping her father complete his mission, unless she has no brothers. That's a deeper idea that he's saying, the difference between a daughter and son. Clear? It's deep. This is simple, but he says, why leave the inheritance? If you didn't use your resources. Use your merits while you're still alive. That's what he says over here. The truth of the matter is, what he's saying, hashkafically, I hear it. However, halachically, we have to point something else out over here. Bookmarks on there. You can also borrow this. You bring everything back tomorrow. You could also borrow this guy also. There's a beautiful sefer on Choshen Mishpat, which very few people have heard of who are watching this, or are here right now. I'm assuming. It's called the Imre Yaakov. Very few people heard about this. This is a beautiful sefer on Choshen Mishpat, and he has an Even Ezer also. I'll give you the head to learn it. Excellent material over here. Who's the Machaber? That's why we got you right over here. Yaakov, Rabbi Rabbi Yaakov Meir Stern, contemporary, he lives in Bnei Brak. He writes about this topic in Siman Aleph, and this is twisting it. And by the way, we quoted from this in Parshas Truma, 10-minute recording how to distribute $10 million of inheritance. It was only 10 minutes, it was the second half, but I didn't bring the sefer. I read from my notes. And I typed it from the sefer. Now I brought the actual sefer. He comes along and he says, a person, basically what he says over here is like this. You can't just give away everything that you have to tzedakah. When you die, you say, everything I'm going to get is going to go to charity. You have to leave your inheritors enough to survive on. And in the Biurim, he has a tremendous amount of length over here. And he says, wait a second. Don't we have two halachas that contradict one another? On the one hand, in Chosh and Mishpat, we learn the halachas of you have to leave something for your inheritors. But on the other hand, in Hilchos Staka and Yoredeya, we learn in Siman Reish Mem Test that you could give away everything you got. How could we reconcile those two halachas? You hear the question?
Yeah, sure.
It's a strong question. You hear the question? So the
Solve it.
Biurim, he says that no. That's only talking about you could give away everything you have after you left enough for your inheritors. Then you could give away everything you have.
How much is enough?
But you have to, so that's obviously the question. Depends on the exact place, time, and person, and individual, and all those factors. If someone has $20 million, he has to leave $1 million or $2 million for his inheritors, maybe even perhaps more. 3, what's enough to live off of?
I mean, also, can you be judgmental? Can you say they're living too high
You could.
standards? And say,
When you write the halachic will, you be smart about it. You could look into this halachically. I'm pretty sure it's misl. You could say they're not going to get all the money right now when they're 15 years old, and so they could just waste it on yachts. It's ridiculous. It's going to be a small
I see what
payout.
you're saying.
It's going to be a gradual. It's going to be when they're older, when they're more mature. Let the money sit in an index fund in the meantime and make more money, whatever it is. One other point over here, which is very important
It
too.
also doesn't have a controlling, the guy.
No,
the guy's
it's
there.
responsible.
The guy's there.
He's being
If he could-
responsible because he knows that his kids are irresponsible.
Let them waste
You
it.
have to know. No, it's exactly what the money's not for. And that's why I'm writing a sefer on what does the Torah say about money. It's exactly what you're not supposed to do with money. Waste it on all this foolishness. He quotes from the Shilas and Chuvas Minchas Yaakov and Chele Gimel, Minchas Yitzchak, excuse me, Chele Gimel Simin Kuf Lamed, who talks about bequeathing assets to one's daughters. And he concludes in Os Yud Dalet over there. He says, "Ein shum safek the yochol lahanchi ba'ofa amor chelik ben asachav." Without a doubt, there's no doubt you could bequeath your assets to your daughters. Land, real estate, and svarim, you shouldn't bequeath to them. He goes into it. At the end over here, he goes back and forth with a lot of length. If you want to look into it, you could check it out more. At the end of the day, he comes along and says, wait a second. Wait a second over here. It's not so simple to give the daughters anything. If you do, you have who to rely on. And he goes back, and we were just discussing this over here. And then he says, furthermore, many times a person is older. He has a son or a daughter, or sons and daughters. But guess what? The son doesn't spend so much time with him, doesn't help him out. The daughter spending tremendous amount of time with her father or mother, helping them out. And if she wouldn't spend time dealing with her, she would go to nursing home, maybe not get treated properly. It would cost a lot of money to hire the aide, especially to go to the nursing home. It's a tremendous amount of money. It builds up. This older individual essentially living because of their daughter. The daughter's helping out tremendously. And now her father wants to give more to the daughter because she's so helpful for so many years. It's basic hakaras hatov, basic gratitude after all. Daughter's helping out a lot. He's not trying to punish the son for not being there for him, but just that's the actuality. She was around more. That is not prohibited. You could give the daughter even more than the son in that case. Comes along the Emre Yaakov and says the daughter could get more money than the son. Hakaras hatov, gratitude. That's fine.
Mhm.
So you're not
He
saying,
says that's fine.
so Hakar,
He's dependent.
I mean, but like,
He's-
how
he
fine? I
came
mean, like,
onto the
he can do whatever he
expression.
wants to do, meaning like he can give her 2/3 and him a third.
Yeah. Yeah, based on what we're saying. If she was helping him for 20 years,
She got the mitzvah.
okay, and now she's going to get rewarded monetarily also. Could be, that's fine. She spent a tremendous amount of time.
See, this guy's
Let's
not God.
discuss one more thing with the remaining 4 minutes that we have. How much time do we have? 4 minutes, 40 seconds. I need every second I can get over here. We discussed in Parshas Vayechi, Rav Pam Zatzal, Shabbos with Rav Pam. He discusses the importance of preparing a will ethically and financially, and this cannot be overstated. Many Jews wrote wills, ethical wills. We discussed this in Vayechi. You could go back to Vayechi, it's all in the video. How many families have been torn apart because of machloikis, arguments over wills? You got to spell out, the parents have to spell out exactly how the estate should be divided. Same thing, when a position of a Torah leader falls, Chassidus dynasty is broken, split. That's why Yaakov requested illness, so that he'll have time to properly instruct everyone before he passed. Yaakov lo meis, but before he physically died, that's it. It's very important. Time to it. Think about it. We have to have the will, and that's very important over here. This we discussed already in Vayechi. This is the idea. We have to be smart about it. The importance of this cannot be overstated. Discuss everything. Make sure everything is fair, that there's no issues beforehand. Make sure that there's no machloikis. This is why illness was created, terminal illness. Created so that there's times to tell everyone what to do. Instruct everyone in the proper way. That's the idea over here. Questions, comments on anything that we did today whatsoever? No? You saying something before?
I was just saying this is like like she gets the mitzvah.
Yeah.
So it seems unfair that basically he's going against halacha to give her such a large share, and he can basically do whatever he wants to do.
Not we just proved how halachically it's fine. We have that whole loophole coupled with the fact that it's the hakaras hatov. It's not ridiculous. It's a basic principle of Jewish belief, and that's what happens a lot of times. People do give money to the daughters.
But practically, I've heard that most times people don't. So I don't know, like
If you don't, that's fine.
I'm saying if you don't, it's fine. But I'm saying that this guy, because he has a car tov, like he can just kind of do whatever he wants. Basically, is what you're saying.
That's what the Yaakov is saying.
Yeah, it's a little strange.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
You could, this
the
is
COC has a website with the halachic will. Like they have addendums here and
Yeah,
stuff
what
like
is it?
that.
Halachic will is more for like life and death stuff. It's nothing to do with.
Yeah, but the halachic will meaning that
We're
this way
talking
you
about
can-
death.
right?
No,
exactly.
not money. It's life and death, like what to do if someone's sick, type of thing.
there's two wills. There's the ethical will
No, but there's also in
and,
terms of how to
and
divide
halachic,
it.
and now we're talking about these things. So what do they say?
I don't know, is it the halachic Jewish introduction? I mean, the whole thing.
Yeah.
Wife Torah's laws inherits, the husband generally inherits his wife's property and a person's sons if he has any or his sole heirs.
Yeah.
Such each getting an equal share except the Bachar who gets a double share. It's common practice legal
Hold
will,
notice.
which a person's estate is divided according to his or her own wishes and not in accordance with halacha. Or a second will has no halacha, is what we're saying. No halacha validity.
Where do you think they're getting it
after
from?
death. At which time a person has no halacha power to transfer. Our rabbis therefore devised a method
Mhm.
to enable one to arrange that a person who is not a halachic heir,
Yeah.
receive a part of their estate. Procedure is as follows. So, going?
Yeah.
The person writes a note of obligation. Oh, this
You got 70 seconds and then the recording's
and
over.
an
Keep on.
amount of an enormous sum of money payable to a certain
Yes.
non-halachic beneficiaries. Upon the death of the person who signed the note, the halachic heirs will perforce give the entire estate to the non-halachic beneficiaries. The stipulated that the halachic heirs will distribute the estate according with the wishes of the deceased, typically is expressed in a separate last will and testament that the obligation is null and void.
Same thing that we just
Same
said.
thing, exactly.
Exactly. Where do you think they got it from?
The obligation.
Look,
yeah.
if someone has $30 million, it doesn't make sense for just one boy to get the 30 million and the daughter not to get a peanut. Look, obviously this doesn't apply to most people, but it certainly applies to a lot of people.
There's one that says annotated, it tells the sources of everything.
Yeah, good. What's the website? Just say the website so anyone wants to see you could get it.
crcbethton.org.
Bethton, how do you spell it?
C cat, Robert cat,
crcbethding.org. See over there. Stuff is real stuff.
I mean, but the problem is